Great day, great day. Welcome, 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 welcome. Come on in the room. We are glad you are here. Welcome. And as you are joining, please like and share and tag someone to let them know you're joining, that they might be interested in supporting and also getting some nuggets from today's webinar as well. We are again, as each week, excited to be broadcasting live on several different platforms, including Facebook, LinkedIn, as well as YouTube. So we are excited to be doing that again week after week. And again, giving you another Mindset Matters Monday. So welcome everyone. And again, like, share, let us know where you're joining us from the respective platforms. We also appreciate that as well. As we look into the metrics afterwards, it's always good to see where people are joining us from. So thank you all for that. So again, welcome, welcome, welcome. And in the spirit of getting started on time and being timely, we're going to go ahead and get ourselves started. As you can see on the screen, we are here. Yes, another Monday, another week, and I want to welcome you to, again, another edition of Mindset Matters, where we explore how the beliefs we hold shape our lives and how we live. Okay. And so we're excited to be able to do that each and every week and to really hopefully shift your mindset around things that matter most and most importantly to you in your life. And tonight, I actually want to talk about something that many successful people struggle with, but very few admit it. Okay. And it's this word control. Okay. And yeah, when we hear this word control, it might sound superior. It might sound strong. It might sound safe, but we're going to explore it as it connects with trust. Okay. So we're going to, as you can see on the screen here, the mindset of trust over control and how letting go of control can give us greater influence, greater peace, and more importantly, greater impact. Okay. So we're going to look at this word control, not because we're controlling people, but because somewhere along the way, we, including me, were convinced ourselves that if we are not in control, everything will fall apart. Okay. I'm a witness to this. Sometimes that thinking and that inner critic that wants me safe leads me down the path that I must control the narrative and I must control the outcome. Okay. And so, because of that, what we find ourselves doing is taking on more. We solve every problem. We carry everyone's burdens. We avoid asking for help. Yes, Nick. And we think that we're protecting the people around us. But what if the very thing we believe is making us stronger, meaning control, is actually making us more exhausted? So just a thought as we go into today's topic. So what if our need to control is limiting our peace or even our leadership and even, yes, our relationships? So tonight, folks, we're going to discover why the greatest leaders aren't the ones who control everything. They are the ones who know what to release. Okay. They are the ones who know what to let go of. Okay. So I'm going to start right away engaging you in the chat. And I'd like for everyone that's tuning in, that's watching, or even if you're watching this after the fact, and I want you to answer this in the chat or in the comments. Where in your life do you find yourself trying to stay in control. Think about it. Where in your life do you find yourself trying to stay in control? Is it your career, your family, your finances, your future, other people's decisions? All of those are just examples. You can put whatever you want in the chat. And if it's one of those, throw it in there. If I hit a nerve, throw it in there. Those are some common ones that come top of mind for me. And there is no wrong answer, folks, just awareness. I want to normalize this whole concept and this perspective of thinking, because awareness is always the first step, as you've heard me say before, towards transformation. Okay? And here's tonight's mindset shift that I want you to remember. Control gives us the illusion of security, but trust gives us genuine peace. Okay? Control gives us the illusion of security, but trust gives us genuine peace. Okay? They are not the same thing. I need you to hear that. Okay? Many of us confuse being responsible with being responsible for everything. Okay? And they're two completely different mindsets that I want you to take away from here. Okay? Two completely different mindsets. So as we go down the path in this topic today, the first area I want to explore is why we actually hold on to control. And you will hear my reference and my point of reference throughout tonight's webinar as we, because I'm throwing myself in the hat as not only I teach this tonight, but also tell myself the exact same thing. So yes, why we hold on to control is the first area that I want to focus on, because control usually isn't about power. It's actually about fear. Okay? So go with me here. And oftentimes it's fear that if I don't do it, it won't get done. Yes. It's fear that if I don't fix it, everything will fall apart. If I ask for help, people will think I'm weak. If I let go, I'll lose everything. And notice, folks, as we talked about each one of those examples, as I put them out there, those aren't facts, folks. Those are beliefs that the inner critic wants you to believe, and oftentimes will remind you of those statements in the moment. Okay? And yes, those beliefs that we internalize and those tapes that we play will drive our behavior. Okay? And many of us learn these beliefs early on in life. Maybe we grew up having to mature too quickly. Maybe we came to be more the dependent one. Maybe, people just constantly praise us for always having it together. But eventually, your identity becomes tired. Okay? And your identity becomes tied to being the one everyone depends on. Okay? And yes, each and every one of these scenarios, folks, I can almost tell you I identify with all of them. Okay? Because here's the problem. The problem is you never learn how to let someone carry you, because we're busy trying to carry ourselves and everything else. And that can be mentally and emotionally exhausting. Okay? And as you reflect on what I'm talking about this evening, I want to ask you a question. Have you became so good at being needed that you have forgotten what it feels like to just simply receive support yourself? Okay? Think about it for a moment. Just let that settle in and let that resonate for a moment. And yes, it's a great awareness for me, folks. Great awareness for me, even as I speak it now. Okay? And as we continue, I want to talk about control. And you may not have became aware of it, but I definitely have became aware of this. But guess what, folks? Control is expensive. Okay? It is extremely expensive. Control, it costs us. It costs us emotionally. It costs us mentally, physically, spiritually. Yes. It creates anxiety because we're trying to manage things that we were never designed to control. Other people's choices, other people's opinions, tomorrow's problems, unexpected circumstances. Yes, the more we chase certainty, the more anxious we become. Okay? The more we try to chase that certainty and that certainty of I gotta know, the more anxious we become. And that anxious manifests itself in us physically, mentally, spiritually, and even emotionally. Because certainty, folks, is impossible. There's going to be some moments that you can't know everything. You can't be 100% certain. You just can't. And I want you to consider this story. Great metaphor. I just want to put it out there just for perspective and for you to kind of consider this. Think about just carrying groceries. You've went to the grocery store and you have quite a bit of groceries in the trunk, but you're carrying those groceries and you have about 10 bags in your hand. And as you're walking to the house, someone, whether it's family, friend, or loved one, walks up and says, "Can I help?" You smile and you say, "No, I got it." 5 steps later, one of the bags falls and it breaks. And then everything sort of falls out of your hands because of the instability. Was it because you weren't strong? No, you were very strong to be able to handle it. It was because you refused help. And folks, life works the exact same way. Sometimes I got it, but I really don't. Okay? And someone offering to take something off of the plate, we have to sometimes be open to the possibility that, yes, that could ease up some things, that could take some things off, that could ease up some mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional weight that might be burdening you down. Okay? So again, just think about, yes, folks, control costs us. And so as I shift, if control costs us, I want to shift to the idea and concept that trust is an act of strength. So when we're willing to trust, that's an act of great strength, because trust doesn't mean doing nothing. Trust means doing your part while releasing what isn't yours. Okay? Yes. It is true in leadership. It is true in marriage. It is true in parenting. And yes, I have found that it is true in business. Healthy leaders don't micromanage healthy parents. Okay? They don't. They don't micromanage healthy parents. They don't micromanage healthy professionals. They don't micromanage healthy young adults. They don't micromanage healthy children, healthy spouses. You know, when we become healthy professionals, healthy individuals, even healthy parents, we don't have to control everything. And as a healthy organization, when we do have those healthy organizations, they don't depend on just one person. Healthy people, folks, understand that influence is even much greater than control. Because when you have influence, folks, it transcends, it transforms. Folks will be willing to support and willing to help, even in some cases, unasked. Hey, looks like you need some help. I recognize that you've got an amazing thing going on, but I realize that I could increase your capacity if I just support you in this way. Okay. And I want to use this biblical connection because I just happen to be thinking about this example in the Bible and was talking and sharing this with a friend. And one of a great lessons of leadership comes from Moses. Okay. God chose Moses. God equipped Moses, but Moses was trying to carry everyone by himself. And then, yes, Jethro came along and said to him, what are you doing? And what you are doing is not good. He didn't question Moses' calling or his influence. He just simply questioned Moses' method. Okay? You cannot do this alone. Sometimes God sends people into our lives not because we're failing, but because we're trying too hard to succeed alone, and that wasn't the plan. Okay? So think about that again, even as we think about how that trust can really be some strength for us. Okay? And trusting that sometimes people may have your best interest at heart. And I believe in the spirit of discernment. And when I feel that, then I'm more easily able to let go. Okay? So I want to transition to just understanding what can you actually control. Okay? I want to think about this, and I want to do this in the form of an exercise. What can you actually control? And so I want you to think about this. And as I transition this image on the screen, I want you to think about it. And if you're writing and you have some paper, I want you to write down 2 circles. Okay? Write down 2 circles. And in one of the circle, as you see here, and you can write it on your paper, I simply want you to write down, I can control things I can control, or I can control, either way, whatever, makes you feel comfortable. But things I can control are, and write these things down and any others that you do have control over. So one being, we have control over my attitude, my effort, my preparation, my choices, my responses, my character, just a few. Okay. Which goes on to, we could say my behavior, we could say my feelings, my emotions, all of which you folks have control over. Okay. And then in the other circle, I want you to write down the things I cannot control. Okay. Starting with other people. I can't do anything about the economy. I no longer have control over the past, anything that might be delayed, rejection, opinions, unexpected events, all of that, I have no control over. And so as you see the 2 visuals and you see the narrative in between, It says your peace begins here. And as you see the arrows, I want you to know that your peace begins when your energy stays inside the areas that you do have control. Okay? So it's good to see the visual, and oftentimes we don't do this pencil and paper exercise to see the visual, but I will offer to you that most often we find ourselves and our energy and our focus in areas, in places and spaces that we simply cannot control. And guess what? That impacts us mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally. Okay? Because we're looking for control in areas we don't have and will never have. Okay? Your energy is most powerful, folks, and remains most effective in those areas that you literally are able to control. Okay? So stay in your circle. Okay? Stay in your circle so that the peace you're searching for can arrive. And if you look at the two circles in front of you, certainly if you've written this down, remind yourself, I can't do anything about that. What other people are saying, what other people will say, what other people do, I can't do anything about that. I have no actions with that. The economy is what it is. My past, I wish I could go back and change some things, but I can't. Delays. If time has happened, and right now, I mean, if I'm honest, there's a delay that's happening right now for me. And that delay is impacting me in a not so good way. But it's a delay that I can't control. And what am I doing? Yes, if I'm honest, I'm spending a lot of energy on that delay, and it's pulling me down mentally and emotionally. Okay? And so this exercise was an awareness for me that says, hey, what I can control is having a positive outlook. I can control my patience. I can control the choice to no longer dwell on what I cannot control. Okay? So this week, I want you to ask yourself 3 questions. Question number 1 is, what am I carrying that isn't mine or that I can't control? What am I carrying that isn't mine? Where am I confusing control with responsibility? And who could help me if I simply ask? Okay, folks, just something as simple as that, those 3 questions. Okay? Because I want you to hear, folks, that the strongest people are not the ones who carry the most. They are the ones who know what belongs to them and absolutely what does not. And trust, folks, that's not giving up. It's giving over. Okay? It's giving to. Okay? Control says, I got to make everything happen. I got to make everything happen. Again, guilty statement of mine. But trust says, I'll faithfully do my part and I'll release the rest because all I can do is what I can control. And when we stop trying to control everything, you finally have the capacity to influence what matters most. Okay? And here's another challenge that I have for you for this week. For the next 7 days, I want you to identify one area where you've been trying to control every outcome. And just do some reflection. Think about one area, just one. There might be several. I just want you to focus on one where you have literally been trying to control every outcome. I want you to choose any action that demonstrates trust instead of delegate, instead of, trying to maintain the control. Okay? Delegate a task, ask for help, release an unrealistic expectation. I want you to be able to do that. Or simply stop worrying about something that is outside of your control. To sum it up in a nutshell, pick one thing that you're controlling and tell yourself, I'm going to not worry about it anymore because it doesn't fall in the right circle. Okay? And notice what happens to your stress, your relationships, and even, folks, your peace when we're willing to do that. And yes, I'm going to take this same challenge myself and remind myself of what's in control and what is not in control. And so as I close, I want to give you all this is to let you know that your greatest strength is not your ability to control every outcome. It is your willingness to trust your purpose, your presentation, and the other people God has placed around you. When you release control, you create room for growth. You create space for peace and certainly greater influence. And if you are tuning in and listening in, and you're joining from Facebook, LinkedIn, or even YouTube, the link in the bio will take you to a discovery call if letting go of that control is a challenge for you. I would love to have some engagement with you on a discovery call, and let's go deeper. And as you always hear me say each week, I love to be an accountability partner to support you in this action, that you can stay focused on what you can control and release those things that we cannot control. And if you're paying attention to the QR code up at the top, you can also sign up for a discovery call by just simply clicking the QR code. Yes, this topic was rich. And this mindset of trust over control is very real for us. And I want you to really take some time, and even if you've got to play this over, the record over again after we are live and it goes on the different platforms, listen to it again and do the work. Okay? And next week, folks, we will continue building stronger mindsets, because when you change your belief, folks, you change your life. And I want to really, really thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for your time, your energy, and again, your continued support. And until next week, remember, mindset matters, because your life you create is the first step to the thoughts that you choose to believe and how you choose to respond and act on them. So be encouraged, stay focused, believe forward, live forward, and have an amazing rest of your evening and an awesome rest of the week. Take care.